My name is Calvin McLeod, and this is my final assignment in Applied Research Methods. Thank you, Dr. Jackson, for taking the time to listen, and thanks for a great class. We spend 1/3 of our life sleeping. This is a major part of our lives that often goes overlooked. In my analysis, I wanted to take a closer look at sleep and how it affects our health. Aside from my study in psychology, I have a career in sleep health. I'm very interested in sleep disorders, as well as the consequences that arise from a lack of adequate sleep. Using various data sets from the CDC, as well as the set we used in class, I was able to find correlations between lack of sleep and different health outcomes. From there, I made the following conclusions. Consistently not getting an adequate sleep, meaning less than 7 hours per night, makes one more susceptible to the following negative health outcomes: obesity, heart disease, diabetes, and cancer. It also shortens one's lifespan and is a serious detriment to happiness. I measured everything by US state. As the data I used was from the CDC and Dr. Jackson, I felt I could be confident in its validity. Here's a description of what's in my data file. These are all the variables I used. I used 50 US states. It gives a minimum, max, mean, and standard deviation. Firstly, this is a scatter plot that illustrates the relationship between sleep and obesity. When the percentage of people who do not get a sufficient sleep increases, so does obesity rate. The less sleep one gets, the more likely they are to be obese. This is a moderate positive correlation of 0.389. It is statistically significant with a p-value at 0.005. This one is backed by research. Insufficient sleep causes hormonal imbalances. It decreases our full appetite hormone leptin and increases our hungry hormone ghrelin. It also impairs glucose metabolism and blood sugar levels, increasing fat content in the body. Here, my findings correlate with the research and my prediction. Here's a scatter plot that shows the relationship between sleep and deaths by heart disease. As percentage of people who do not get an adequate sleep increases, so does heart disease mortality rate. The less sleep one gets, the more likely they are to die of heart disease. This is a positive correlation of 0.470 and is statistically significant with a p-value at less than 0.001. When we don't get enough sleep, sympathetic activity is increased, and blood pressure increases with it. Chronic hypertension increases our risk of heart attack. Furthermore, poor sleep causes an increase in inflammatory proteins, damaging blood vessels and increasing risk of heart disease. In this scatter plot, we can visualize the relationship between sleep and diabetes mortality. As percentage of people who do not get an adequate sleep increases, so does diabetes mortality. The less sleep one gets, the more likely they are to die from diabetes. This is a positive correlation at 0.307. It is statistically significant with a p-value of 0.03. Poor sleep causes insulin resistance. We become less sensitive to insulin, and it becomes harder to regulate sugar levels. Even a single night of bad sleep puts our bodies in a state of pre-diabetic conditions. Here's a scatter plot that shows the relationship between sleep and cancer mortality. As percentage of people who do not get an adequate sleep increases, so does cancer mortality. The less sleep one gets, the more likely they are to die of cancer. This is a positive correlation at 0.315. This is statistically significant with a p-value of 0.026. Poor sleep weakens our immune system. It decreases the amount of natural killer cells in our body that help fight cancer cells before they spread. Furthermore, less sleep also decreases melatonin in the body, which has natural properties that protect our cells from cancer. Here's a scatter plot that illustrates the relationship between sleep and accident mortality. Generally, as percentage of people who do not get an adequate sleep increases, so does accident mortality. The less sleep one gets, the more likely they are to die in an accident. This is a positive correlation of 0.153. It is not statistically significant with a p-value of 0.290. Even though the data was not statistically significant, poor sleep is linked to reduced reaction time, bad decision-making, and decreased sustained attention. Even a small increase in accidents due to poor sleep is worth looking at and considering. Here's a scatter plot that shows the relationship between sleep and happiness. As percentage of people who do not get an adequate sleep increases, happiness rating decreases. The less sleep one gets, the more unhappy they tend to be. This is a very strong negative correlation of negative 0.694. It is statistically significant with a p-value of less than 0.001. Here, better sleep is increasing happiness due to health benefits that come with it. Good sleep is a key part of overall well-being. Furthermore, it reduces cortisol, or stress hormones, in the body. It also increases overall energy level and ability to take part in activities, whether that's physical or social. It is also important to note that happiness could be contributing to better sleep. We know that anxiety and depression hinder sleep. This is likely a relationship that goes both ways. This scatter plot shows the relationship between sleep and lifespan. As percentage of people who do not get adequate sleep increases, lifespan decreases. The less sleep one gets, the shorter the lifespan. This is a strong negative correlation of negative 0.546. It is statistically significant with p-value at less than 0.001. Lifespan is higher due to the associated health benefits that come with consistently good sleep, including better heart health, immune health, and less diabetes, cancer risk, and obesity risk. Also, more happiness and well-being. Creating a multiple regression model, I used all my variables except deaths by accident because it was not statistically significant. I ended up with a R-squared value of 0.532. This model is moderately effective at predicting adequate sleep in the States. Overall, my data shows just how important quality sleep is. It shows all of the negative health outcomes that come with inadequate sleep. One consistent outlier that has very inadequate sleep yet above average health outcomes is Hawaii. Hawaii is a contradiction to my claims. They get poor sleep but have very high lifespans, above average happiness, very low accident rate, and low cancer, diabetes, and heart disease. Perhaps it is not all about sleep, and more about well-being. Hawaiians have strong ties to their culture, family, and friends. They believe in strong community ties and an aloha spirit, which is all about love, compassion, and community. Social bonds and helping each other is very important in their culture. Not to mention they live in a beautiful landscape with easy access to hiking, swimming, and surfing. Perhaps the outlier of Hawaii shows that these qualities are even more important than sleep when it comes to health outcomes. All right, that's all for today. Thank you very much.